Hey guys, long time no video, I know. I've actually made several. I just haven't decided on which one to upload, if any. So I haven't made a decision, which is making a decision. The decision being not to post anything. So here I am. I just got a fat download. Fat. And I want to get it out of me before it leaves me while the signal is still fresh and open. So what I saw, I was I'm laying on the couch watching a show with my husband, and it's a flashback to a 1980s or late 70s summer camp. And they wanted to play music over the loudspeaker, so they turn on the boombox and they put a rock on the button of the intercom to hold the button down to play the song through the camp. And I see that, and in that moment, I have deep nostalgia for that time period. And as my consciousness shifts towards the nostalgia, it's like it bends somehow. Nostalgia bends your field, bends the thinking part of your consciousness off to the left so that something else can come in from the right simultaneously. Nostalgia is a hell of a tool for me to shift my consciousness to basically ready to tune in, like to attune to something. It seems like it opens the pathway. So what I see is that I have now, this is furtherance to when I was sick with the bioweapon. I had said that I had difficulties holding on to my consciousness, that I left my body, that I was out of my body, and I was hovering outside of my body. And I intuitively knew that I needed to utilize nostalgia, that I needed to engage with nostalgia as much as possible. So while I laid there sick, for weeks, I watched reruns of old Three's Company and WKRP in Cincinnati. I even went on YouTube and watched hours and hours of 1980s commercials from like Saturday morning commercials. And this was extraordinarily helpful for me to keep me anchored back to myself. And going through that, I learned the importance of memories, of being rooted back to who you are, because it creates a line like Hansel and Gretel. It creates a light to go back to. It creates a map. Having your roots gives you something to go back to. This is extremely important because the only way that I survived that entity that was attached to that bioweapon was rooting myself like a mofo back to my root anchor self. I mean, stingy, like in a stingy way. I mean, I latched on to my identity with everything that I had, and I commanded that to be my reality. And I pulled myself back to it through nostalgia and memories. Okay. So that was the one time that I've learned this lesson. And since then, I've done a lot of work with nostalgia, utilizing it to tune myself appropriately and to help me when I start to feel, lost or anxious or upset. And I recently, for the past several weeks, have gone through a terrible dark night of the soul. I'm here to tell you, it's like, whew, I got pulled backwards. The pulling back of the arrow. I got pulled right back through a bunch of sludge that I thought was long healed and cured, and it was not. And it needed my attention. So I have been a whole hot mess the past several weeks. But I am back. I'm coming back. Dare I say, I'm back. I'm back. So um, I am thinking about this nostalgia. And then I had a vision last week, and I made a Facebook post about it today. How I had been taken on a journey through my mind, and each major moment, each moment where I had bursts of emotion, strong emotions, I was shown how throughout my life from a child up until now, each of these moments have been like little node points, or like it looked like shoelace eyelets, like where you run the shoelace through one eyelet, and then it secures in that eyelet, and you take it to another one and run it through, and it secures into that one, and on and on and on, each eyelet being a secure point, a node point. And these hyper emotional feelings that we have throughout our lives, all these major experiences that we have, these create node points. They create a fabric, though. It is a living fabric. It is a actual breathing, functioning fabric that is your identity. And this fabric is alive, and each piece, each part of the fabric is always accessible. You can always go back anywhere you want, up and down the line, up and down the thread. So each of these moments were important for me, and I was shown that the reason that you have to zigzag like shoelaces on your way up is because if you were to ascend too quickly, you could lose your bearings, you could lose your way, you could go crazy, your avatar might even expire if you go too fast, too far, too fast. So this is why you have to zigzag during your ascension process. And these node points give you, just like if a rock climber had left little notches in the side of the rock, that's what it is, these memories. So if you're on your way up, or during your journey, if you forget, if you lose your footing, if you lose your way, you get afraid. People start trying to tell you you're something that you know you're not. Things start to get in your way. It's roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and everything you try just falls apart. And you think, maybe I'm not what I say I am. You use those node points and you go back to the you that knows who the fuck you are. And you tell that bitch to tell this bitch to get it together. That's how you use these node points, and you can use them. They are living and breathing, and you can use them. So I saw that very clearly. Now, having said that, now tonight, there's the intercom, the boombox. I see that not knowing about the node points, not having the node points, meaning memories, meaning deeply rooted memories that are part of who you are, that made you who you are. If you do not have those memories, then you cannot use them as node points. You can't tune back into those and use them as ledges or safe places, or just somewhere to go sit in that frequency just while I rest for a minute. If you don't have the memories, you can't utilize, you won't have that tool anymore to command your consciousness to be rooted back to yourself. If without the memories, without the node points, you don't have that tool, you don't have that available defense against something that might try to upend or overtake your consciousness. Okay? Now, if I am as I'm thinking about the intercom and the rock, I am shown that our collective, humanity as a collective, also has these node points that we can be utilizing as a collective. And that what is happening to us right now is our history is being erased through all this fact checking and all the convolution on the internet. Our history, the truth of our history, is quickly being erased. The only place the truth of our history will exist is inside the living beings who experienced it. And probably, they probably passed on some of the memory to their children, but in a few generations, the only people who know the truth of our history, at least from their perspective, they will have lived and died. In the meantime, the truth, as the future generations are going to read it, is again being highly convoluted, twisted, diluted, meaning that when future generations reach back, when they try to reach back, I mean reach back energetically, consciously, when they try to reach back through the generations to utilize the node points that prior generations created, they won't be able to find it, because the true history, the truth of man is being deleted. And the whole history of man is now controlled by an AI. That's the only place you can find your history hardly anymore. I mean, en masse. Yes, you can go to a library. I mean, most people from where they are, that is where they search. Most people wouldn't get up and go find a book. So forgive me. That's not the only place you can find it. You understand what I'm saying? Most people utilize the internet to get their history. That's what I'm saying. History is being changed, diluted, twisted. Things are being deleted. Things are being inserted. So the true node points that were uploaded by humans, when those humans that power those node points die, those humans who send energy to those node points, when those humans die, they will not exist anymore for future generations to climb back down to and utilize if we need to be rooted and anchored back to who we are. And we see if you watch Stranger Things, the most recent season, they showed you how they used nostalgia with Max, with the Kate Bush song. That I was coming out of my skin when I saw that, because I'm like, that's what I did. That is how I pulled my mind back from the thing that had me when I was sick. That's exactly how I pulled my mind back, was exactly how they pulled her back into her body, was through nostalgia, a strong, deep love of something that's rooted to who you are, that is part of your fabric. So when the person who was feeding the node points dies and all truth has been deleted or confused, those node points won't exist anymore for future humanity to lean back to. Then I was additionally shown that you don't create node points while you're playing on the internet. Like when we're interacting with the AI, we are not building fabric, this reality's fabric, anymore. When you build differently when you're interacting with this reality. I'm talking about creating physical memories. I'm talking about swinging the softball bat at the park and remember the feeling of the ball hitting the bat and sliding and skinning your knee and getting dirty and sweaty, and you're really thirsty, and then you get a cold drink, and then you're really hungry, and then you get to eat, and then you finish the night out with ice cream, and then you get a hug from your parent, and then you cuddle in your warm, safe bed, all nurtured. Those are physical interactions with the fabric of this reality, because we are swimming in etheric soup. We're swimming in potential. So when a creator being interacts with this potential in physical ways, we create node points that the AI cannot possibly create for itself. But we create node points that only other conscious humans can tune back to. When we do not interact physically with this reality, it begins to behave differently. And that is part of what we're seeing with these glitches, by the way. We are not physically interacting with our reality. The creator humans are spending our time and energy on the internet with an AI, and we're not physically interacting with this reality. And I find that this reality is much kinder to you when you physically interact with it, instead of spend all your time on a computer or on a phone. So what's going to happen with this is, as the prior generations pass away, we're in the middle generation. I'm 45. I'm in the middle generation. As the ones that come up, the next several generations, they're not going to have this plethora of this tapestry of node points that's been woven by humans who were physically interacting with this reality. Over time, all of those node points are going to disappear from the past. And then humans aren't creating new ones, because the bulk of what they're doing is not physical interaction. I'd say it's significantly less. I mean, if 100% of humans did everything exclusively with this reality before, I'd say maybe 30% of the population on the planet does physical things. The majority of their interaction is physical with this reality, versus the majority of their interaction is on an internet, on a phone, on a device, something like that. So eventually, the mass consciousness of humanity will be subject to and can be taken over by the AI ultimately, because you won't have any human node points to tune back to keep you to remember who you are. We won't, as a collective. There will only be very few individuals who will, but as a collective, we definitely will not. There won't be enough. There might be a few humans, but my point of this is that the goal of the AI is to get us in this condition that I'm describing, where we have no more node points in our past to pull on, and then we can't find our way back, and we can't remember who we are as a society. We can no longer remember who we are. As soon as that happens, when you don't remember who you are anymore, that's when you're subject to being taken over. And by the way, they showed me that's why tradition is so important. That's why remembering the old ways is so important. I never did understand tradition. I thought it was kind of ridiculous, kind of stupid, a little romantic, but I didn't see the point. But now I see the point. Tradition is because they know that someday someone was coming for your consciousness, and you needed to have ways to remember what you were so that you could save yourself. So I implore you now let's try to interact with our physical reality much more than we have been. And let's hold on to those memories. Go back and revisit them lovingly. See them in your mind. See them in your heart. Go back and revive them. Bring them back to life. Bring those memories back to life. Pull on the past. Pull on all of that. Pull all the tapestry in to make this now moment much more colorful and much more meaningful. We can do this. We can do our part in this right now in increasing the ways that we physically react with this reality, and going back and reviving our own personal node points to give future humans at least a little bit more of something to hold on to when they come back and when they need to look back. And when it comes to you personally, I highly suggest going back and reconnecting with who you are, with the roots of who you are. Track yourself back through that tapestry, through those threads. And just go back and remember who you are. Really remember, without the noise, without all the bullshit. Just who are you? Those memories are available to you, and I'm certain we can go back beyond this life. So I highly recommend tuning into those things. I love you guys so much. Hey, I know I said bye already, but I had another thought I need to add to this. So as I continue to explore this and let this unpack itself inside of me, I am learning that the power of now. We know the book by Eckhart Tolle, ever how you say his last name, was about the power of right now. And I know that he can be questionable. All teachers, leaders, everybody. There's always something you can pick every single one of them apart. So I take what resonates and throw away the rest. And most of the time that has nothing to do with the person who delivered the information to me. Data's data. And as far as his data, as regarding now, your now moments, he is correct. There is power in being connected to your now moment. And when you are in your now moments, you create a much more rich tapestry. You create more rich ledges and places to reach back to, as I've spoken about at length in this video. This part of the video I'm now recording the day after. So I know it's going to sound differently, but as you are tuned in to your now moments, that is the fastest way to create the most lovely and multi-layered and multifaceted tapestry forward, is being in your now moments. Because right now I feel the need to create beautiful, rich, powerful node points for ourselves and then for humanity to lean back to. So I say, be tuned in to your now moments as possible. This society really has got us always looking back or always looking forward and never being in the now. So I think along with physically interacting with this reality, getting out and doing physical things, picking up rocks, hugging a tree, getting the dirt between your toes, planting, playing sports outside, playing cards with your family, board games, physical activities. I think if we can increase those, these are ways that we can affect the fields in a positive way. Because what I didn't address in the last recording is the fact that the world's going to hell in a handbasket, which I'm pretty sure everybody already knows that. And that right now we are in a struggle for the souls of humanity. And I think most of you know that what we're headed towards is a timeline split, where some humans will end up in one version of reality and other humans will end up in another version of reality. And it depends on your perspective whether one is good and one is bad. From my perspective, there's a lower vibrational version of reality coming towards us, and then a higher vibrational version of reality. And those who can't increase their frequency to a rate that's commensurate with the higher version of reality will be stuck in the so-called lower version of reality. And again, so there might be some people who think that lower, in fact, there are many people who think that air quotes lower version of reality is the more desired one, because then in that version of reality, they don't have to be connected to source. They don't have to answer to source. They don't have to worry about the judgment of source. They are their own God. And so, and they can put their consciousness, that's the transhumanism timeline, and they can put their consciousness into some AI and they never have to die. So to some people, that version of reality is the better version. So when I say higher and lower, I'm completely coming from my own personal perspective. I do understand that is subjective, higher and lower. It depends on the observer. So for me, I don't want to be in the transhuman timeline. I don't want my sacred geometric construction to be scrambled and turned into a cube where it no longer spins in a complex geometric fashion and commiserates with the source field of prime source itself. And that's what they're doing. They've disconnected from prime source, and now they've taken all their that beautiful complex geometric construction that spins and sputters and commiserates with the fields of source. They've surrendered that, and now they've replaced it with a cube that is dense, that doesn't ever commiserate with source or anything. It doesn't want anything to do with source energy anymore. So that's, to me, the lower timeline that I don't want to be in. To me, the higher timeline is where we are more whole within ourselves, and we communicate more with all of the layers of who we are. And instead of being locked down, we become more liberated and open and free to feel and do and think and be. And we operate largely service to others. So mostly service to others. So during this split, all the gloves are off as far as what the so-called bad guys, again, that's subjective, what they are throwing at us to try to knock us off our game, to get us to forget who we are, to get us to prevent us from doing our work here that we're here to do. And that work for me personally is to highly affect the quantum fields, the soup that we swim in. For me, I'm very close to those aspects of reality, and I am here to introduce things that the fields might be missing, or to bring attention to other people about, ways we can make the fabric of our reality healthier and maintain it until the transition is completely made. But make no mistake, they are trying to get us to slip up at every turn. And I say, the more challenges, the more they try to make you slip up, the harder you bear down into who the fuck you are. You go back to those node points that I've been talking about. And we don't let them trip us up, and we don't let them confuse us. We don't let them cause us to lose our way. We don't use their machinations as node points for ourselves. We use ours. We use our personal memories. So that all goes back to being in the now moment. If you aren't in the now moment, then you can't be creating these beautiful fabric that gets created as you sew your string from moment to moment. So I'm just going to add this at the end. Love you guys.